What's up, everyone? All right, so in today's episode, I'm going to break down all of my trades from the morning. I'm sitting here in the green, up nearly $170,000 in one day. Today, I came in focused and ready to perform, and I did a lot better than I did on Tuesday or Wednesday. Now, Tuesday, I did peak at $184,000 on the day, but when I came in on Tuesday morning, I hadn't slept well the night before. I wasn't as focused. I was being really aggressive, but a little bit kind of trigger happy. I was jumping in things very quickly, and I ended up taking a couple of really big losses. I had 3 big losses during the day. Each one of them was like 50 grand. So I was up 130, then lost 50, was at 80. Then made that back, got myself up to 180, then lost 50, was back to 130, lost another 50, was back to 180 or back to 80. Yesterday, similarly, I was in kind of a place where I was really looking for that big move, and so I was jumping quickly. And so if you recall yesterday, I worked my way up to $75,000, $80,000 on the day, and then kind of got distracted by one stock, lost on that real quick, then jumped on another one that I'd been in, top ticked it, lost 70 grand, basically. Went all the way back to flat on the day, and then from there, well, I guess 25,000 on the day. But it was really kind of a tricky day. So this morning I said, all right, what's the goal? We're clearly in a market where there's a lot of volatility. There's a lot of opportunity, but it's difficult. And you know what? Cold markets are hard in a different way. In a cold market, you've got to be really patient. You got to just kind of, control yourself not to trade, dealing with the frustration that you want to see big moves, but nothing is happening. Hot market, test your patience in a different way. You've got to wait for these to pull back. If you top ticket, you get in too high, you're mismanaging risk, and then boom, next thing you know, you're like me, red on a stock up 800%. That was me yesterday on WLDS. So today I said, slow down, first of all. Try to figure out which stock is really the most obvious in each moment and focus just on that stock and really trade it aggressively on the front side of the move. And then once it rolls over, put it on the side and only come back to it if it's able to make new highs. That helped me a lot today. So let's go ahead and jump on the charts. WLDS, this was a stock that I was watching for continuation. It did end up working. I did not end up taking any trades on it. It may still work, but it's getting later in the day. Carries kind of probably too much risk at this point. So they announced a registered offering, direct offering, $4 million at, I think it was $6 a share. The price dropped promptly on that headline, but has begun to rally back up, which is good. So high of today is 1027. High of yesterday was 1091. So these are levels to watch. Now, this peak was at about 6 in the morning. I was watching it at 6:45 for a possible curl back up, but I observed a lot of topping tails. That's not good. And how much was it up? Well, look at percentage change. So from the close, let's see, grab my, so we closed down here. So even at this point right here from that close, we were up, not an insignificant amount, 68%, 70%, right about here. However, there were other stocks that were up more. And those are the stocks that ended up getting more attention, which makes sense. So the first stock that I traded was actually AMST. And so AMST was the first stock I traded. Right at 6:30, this thing started to pop up. And so it began moving pretty quickly. It did have news, earnings, which was similar to the catalyst that worked well yesterday on WLDS. It rallies up at 6, no trades there. Then it comes back up here at around 6:45. Then it pulls back. Then it comes back up here coming into 7. And I took this trade right here with my first entry being at $6.13, actually $6.04. And from 6:04, so it's a little bit higher on this pullback, we got this rally up to 7, which was $1 a share. Now on that first trade, I made $20,000 on it, which was really solid. So that put me on the leaderboard in the green, did about 25,000 shares, which is a little bit of a bigger position for the first trade of the day, but 5,000 share block scaling in once I was green. So scaled into it to 25,000 shares, got almost $1 a share out of it, 20,000 bucks. It ends up pulling back, dipping down, and then I came back in and took another trade on it right here. I got back in right here at $5, and this was my biggest loss of the entire day. I got in at 5, and I really thought this thing was going to squeeze back to the high of day. It was a break of VWAP. That's what I was looking for. And it ended up rejecting. and I gave back the $20,000 that I made on it, which means I'm up only $373.13 on AMST. So that was my biggest loss of the day, losing 20 grand. However, when that happened, I was already up over $130,000. So it dropped me to up 110,000, whatever it was. It was not that big of a deal. Now, in this moment, the MACD was positive. It had flipped to positive, and I was looking for that squeeze through the high. So what was I thinking about this, and why did I think I had that potential? Well, let's look at a couple of the other stocks that I traded. So VNCE, this is a stock that I had traded previously. That's a very similar setup. A pop-up, a pullback, a break of VWAP, and right there on VNCE, how much did I make? $36,000. That was a solid trade. So I got in this, as it broke over here, it squeezed over 440, and I was adding right in this candle, and basically jumped in, added, got this squeeze all the way up to 640, $2 a share. Boom, 36,000 bucks. Now, it broke over VWAP, it held VWAP, and then that was the trade. So on WLDS, maybe I should have waited for it to break VWAP and hold over. Where was this? AMST. On AMST, maybe I should have waited for it to break VWAP and hold before I jumped in. I took the break of VWAP setup. It's a little aggressive. But at that point, I was also like super in the zone. I felt like I was doing really well, and I was like, here we go. This is the next one. So anyway, so that is what it is. But going back to the first trade. So first trade of the day was on AMST back here in this move. Locked up 20,000 bucks on that. And then second trade of the day was SLXN. SLXN, this is very interesting. They put out news this morning, and the first headline, they put out two headlines. The first headline was that they demonstrate positive preclinical data demonstrating reach, activity in major pancreatic cancer metastatic sites following systemic administration. So in any case, they've got this headline, it comes out, and the stock rockets from $4 or $5 to $30 a share. And then at 9:30, at 9:15, they announced a secondary offering. They raised $6 million selling shares at $4 a share. Wow. So the price came back down to 4 because they sold these shares at 4, which significantly increased the float. The float was 600,000 shares. Now they just sold an extra 1.4 million. So here's how I traded SLXN. We're going to go to the 10-second chart because this was a fast-moving stock. So initially, it pops up right here, and when it hits my scanner, it first hit the scanner at around $10 a share. It was right down in here when it first hit the scanner. I pulled it up. Next thing you know, it's printing 13, and I said, I can't. The volume is light. The spreads are big. Let me see what the news is. And let me make sure there even is news on it, because otherwise it's probably going to go right back down to 5, and I'll get smoked. So I'm trying to pull up the news. I'm reading, seeing what it is. Then next thing you know, it's 14, 15, 16, 17. I haven't taken a trade on it. I was like, all right, now that's okay. I'm going to wait for a pullback. It dips down here. It bounces off of 13, and I bought this dip. So right down here, I got in. Oops, sorry. And we got the rally back up to 19, and we went all the way up to $25 a share right there. So I took all my profit off the table into that move. Then it pulls back, and I'm asking myself, should I get back in? And I did. I got back in for the break of 25 right here, and it squeezes all the way up, as you can see, to 28. Does a micro pullback, ends up tapping 30, and I'm taking my profit off the table right in this area, and boom, I'm up $48,000, $49,000 just on SLKN, and it's 7:05 in the morning, and I'm up nearly $70,000 between AMST and that. So I was like, holy smokes, wow. We have some momentum today. The next trade, 7:30, VNCE, break of VWAP, as I just showed you just a moment ago. Jumped in that, $36,000. Now I'm up over 100 grand on the day. Wow. All right, this day is on fire. Next trade after VNCE, I take KZIA. KZIA, and there was a little bit of a period of no trading. So I didn't take any trades from 7:30 to 8. I was waiting for the next headline. So KZAI pops up, KZIA, and it pops up, it hits the scanner, I pull it up, and I see that it's a headline, and the headline reads similar to SLXN. And this was before the SLXN offering. So they've got reports complete disruption of large circulating tumor cells, da 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 da. So I'm like, okay, here we go. This is another one. So on this one, I took small size. I bought 1,000 shares, and then I added another 1,500. So I scaled into it as it was squeezing higher, and it ended up hitting a high right here of $22 a share, $22.23 a share. It's pretty impressive. So even starting with small size, but scaling in, I was able to lock up $24,000 on KZIA. So now I'm up, 130. So following that trade, I took the loss on AMST, lost 20 grand. So I was like, okay, maybe this is my time to, call it a day. So now I'm sitting tight. It's, 818, 820, whatever it is. And then MOGU pops up on the scanner. And MOGU, initially, I'm like, I don't know. It's Chinese, but it does have this crypto catalyst. So let's see what it wants to do. I'm looking at it on the 1-minute chart, and I said, I'm seeing ascending resistance right here and right here. Oops, sorry. Right here and right here. So it pops up to there on that candle, and I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not a nice move. This just went from 350 on a break of VWAP all the way up to nearly $6 a share. It pulls back, it comes back up, squeezes all the way to a high of 750. So where did I take my first trade? Let's jump onto the 10-second chart for this one as well. So on this one, and by the way, for those of you guys that haven't already done a 2-week trial at Warrior Trading, during your trial, you get access to the software. So you could be doing everything I'm doing. You could be using your charts, adding your indicators, scanners, listening to my broadcast, in the chat room, everything else. So it's a 2-week trial for $20. I think you guys will get a lot out of it. So I'll put a link at the top of the comments where you guys can start your trial. Okay, so let's see. So back here, so it's 8:34. So I took my first trade right here. All right, so we popped up, we pulled back, and that was where I took my first trade on it from 740 up to a high of 980. Boom, that's a solid trade. It pulls back, I'm buying the dip, and then boom, that next rally back up to 960. It ends up dropping down, as you can see, going sideways, and although it came back up a little bit later, we weren't able to retest the high. But at this point in the day, I was feeling confident. I was trading with bigger size. So boom, locked up $44,000 on that one. And that's where I peaked today at $169,394.95. A fantastic day. In fact, probably the biggest green day, let's see, since July. Let's just check. So, I'm just going to bring this down here. All right, so let's see. Here is June, so $200,000 there, June. So let's look at July. All right. So biggest day in July was 205,000. So that was on the 16th. So is this the biggest day I've had since June 16th? Let's check the month of August. Oops, that's July. I think this will be, because I don't think I had a 6-figure day in August. Nope. So this today is the biggest day since June 16th. Wow. So, it's been 3 months since I had a day like this, or July 16th. I guess it was July, 2 months. Nonetheless, this is, what was July? 90, July 14th. July 14th was 129. So it's actually my biggest day since July 14th. Yeah, that was, but this is bigger than, any of these days. So the last day I had a day that was bigger than this goes back to June. So yeah, so this is going to be one of, probably the top 10 biggest days of the year. Interestingly, I was sitting with one of my top 10 biggest days of the year just back on Tuesday when I was up $185,000. And then I screwed it up. So today I kind of redeemed myself a bit for that screw up. I don't know. I'm still a little disappointed about it, but it is what it is. Water under the bridge. I've made back, that 100K that I gave back off the top and then some. So now I'm up 170 on the week with today. Yesterday was 25, so round up to 200. Monday was 30, so 230. And then Tuesday was 80, so over $300,000 on the week. Wow. So now all of a sudden, $1 million is well within reach if this month continues to be hot the way it has been this week. So tomorrow, I'm going to show up, same time as always, 7 a.m., live streaming, looking at the scanners, looking for some momentum, and I think there's a good chance we'll find it. Now, we haven't had a 1,000% squeeze today, so maybe it's softening a little bit today. We'll see what the rest of the day looks like. We'll certainly see what tomorrow morning looks like, but I'm not going to come in with the expectation of trying to make 100 grand tomorrow, but I'm going to come in looking at the market and trying to make the most of what's in front of me. All right, so that's it for me. Thank you guys as always for tuning in, and please remember, trading is risky. My results aren't typical. I've been trading for a long time. So you need to manage your risk and practice in a simulator before putting real money on the line. I'm thrilled for you guys to join us during our 2-week trial to become a member at Warrior Trading, but I always want to remind you, there's no guarantee you'll find success whether you trade with me or you learn on your own. So please take it slow, pay your dues, and study up. All right, so with that, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.